Hello, welcome to Charles County Now. I'm Natasha Anthony. Imagine a community where residents spend hours each day battling some of the nation's longest commutes, where reliable, high-capacity transit is a distant dream. Southern Maryland's Rapid Transit SMRT project could change all of that, creating a lifeline for 450,000 people in a rapidly growing region. Today, we're digging into the status of this critical project, why it's a top priority, the challenges it faces, and what this means for our community. Joining us is Jason Groth, the Acting Director of Planning and Growth Management. Jason, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.
Of course, you're welcome. Now, Jason, why is the SMRT project such a high priority for both Charles and Prince George's counties?
Numerous reasons. First and foremost, traffic and transportation. Second, economic development. And I'd say third, just an overall boost to the region in mobility and moving people around in a way that they're not used to today. I would say one thing to consider is that we have an area that is road dominant. We have two main roads going in and out of Charles County into Prince George's County, and Southern Maryland in general. And by adding a transit system, a high-capacity transit system to the network, it moves people in a way that the road system can't. You can only expand roads so many ways, and once you add that capacity, it fills up. The transit system adds a new element to our transportation network and connects people to the Washington, D.C. metro region.
Okay, great. So tell me, Jason, how will the SMRT project benefit the residents of Southern Maryland and the wider region?
Sure. So essentially, this 19-mile fixed transit system adds bus rapid transit or light rail. The mode has to be determined through the current studies, but it connects people through stations all the way to the Washington, D.C. metro system, namely the Green Line at Branch Avenue.
Amazing.
By getting people out of their cars and onto the transit system, you add essentially mobility from Southern Maryland, not just Charles County, but Southern Prince George's County, St. Mary's County. People can access them through access the system through park and rides and get to anywhere in the Washington, D.C. region.
That is amazing, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be something that's very, very welcoming. Now, Jason, with $10 million in federal earmarks secured and another $5 million pending, how does federal support affect the project's future?
Sure. So the federal funding is secured, as you said, $10 million already secured through federal earmarks in previous years, and that money is there for use. We have an existing or a pending earmark for an additional $5 million, which will add to the pot, so to speak. And that money is something that is very hard to come by. The fact that our federal delegation was able to gather that funding for this project makes the project come to fruition. We have that money no matter what other funding sources come to the table, but we are seeking others.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, can you explain, Jason, the recent changes to the project's funding, especially the proposed budget cut from $30 million to $2.1 million?
Sure. So there is a draft budget, and I emphasize draft, from the state of Maryland, where they take all the funding for the project, both state and federal, and they put together a capital project, which is what we're using to initiate the studies and determine the alignment, the stations, as well as different facets of the project. So what has happened as the state is going through some budget challenges. The revenues are down, such as gas tax and things like that. People are driving more electric vehicles. Cars are becoming more fuel efficient. So the revenues are down and the expenses have gone up. We've all experienced inflation and costs rising. So just like that, this project has seen inflation, or not just this project, but all state projects have experienced inflation. So that being said, what is going on right now is the state is looking for ways to cut back on their expenses. And one of the ways they've done that is they've looked at all projects that haven't gotten very far, and they've said, you know what, we're going to cut back on those projects to a minimal amount. But in this particular case, we've argued with the state government saying that's not right. We've got $10 million in federal earmarks already to the project. It's been secured. There's nothing waiting on. And we are now looking to receive that additional earmark. the state government has to match those funds.
Gotcha.
So essentially, we are waiting for the verdict from the state government as to how they're going to adjust the budget, if at all. But we're pleading with them to leave the budget as it previously was.
Got you. Okay, well, thank you for explaining that. Now, the state is required by law to match federal funds for the SMRT project. Jason, can you explain why this mandate is so critical to keeping the project on track?
Absolutely. So the matching requirement comes from a state legislative act that was passed in 2021. State Transportation Code 7-713 states that for all federal dollars received up to $30 million, the state has to match it. There is some concern right now that the state is going to move to the legislative session this year and ask the legislature to remove that requirement to match the funds. The state matching funds were put into place to make sure this project comes to fruition. And our legislators back in 2021 at the state level wanted to make sure that they gave the state an incentive to fund the project. So they specifically said, if we get the federal dollars, then the state will match it. And the governor did not veto, the governor at the time did not veto the bill because of the federal money requirement. So having some skin in the game from the feds essentially ensures that this project will be successful. And so we want to make sure that the state lives up to their end of the bargain and they fulfill the project funding.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Jason, if progress on SMRT is delayed, what will it mean for the equity and future growth of Southern Maryland?
Well, essentially, things will continue to get worse in terms of congestion. We have some of the worst commutes in the country in our region. And like I said earlier, with only 2 roads going in and out of the county, 2 major roads, those are it. Those are our routes. And so without additional transportation services such as the SMRT, we will continue to sit in congestion. And that is a very inequitable situation for our community, both in Charles, other portions of Southern Maryland, and Southern Prince George's, where we don't have the fixed route transit like other areas around the DC metro region. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure listeners, this is something that everyone feels. Like, I am a commuter and I feel it too. So, we are honestly very grateful for the efforts that are being put in place here. Now, Jason, with federal and state partnerships so crucial to SMRT, how are local leaders advocating to ensure the state meets its funding obligations for this project?
So first and foremost, we have been coordinating with the Secretary of Transportation for Maryland as well as the governor and been pushing for that funding to stay in place. We've done everything at the local level we can do to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain. We've redone the zoning throughout the transportation corridor to create transit-oriented development. So you would have locations where people can reside, walk out their front door, walk to the station, and ride the transit system to the DC metro region. We've also ensured that we've sort of cleared the decks to make sure everything at the local level are ready to go, support and facilitate the project. And we just really want to make sure that everybody's communicating and the partnerships are there to make sure this project is a success.
Definitely. Thank you so much. So Jason Groth, he's the Acting Director of Planning and Growth Management. Jason, thank you so much for sharing wonderful information, and we encourage our community to engage and stay engaged. That's all we have for this episode of Charles County Now. I'm Natasha Anthony.